Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics, and we do begin today with former Governor Jon Huntsman Jr. Governor, great to have you back on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Glenn. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure having you as well. Let's get right into the transition to the Biden administration. You have experience on the global level of leadership, and I'd like to know what you think of the administration and the transition that has happened so far 1 month in.
Well, they've only been at it a month, and it's hard to give out grades after a single month, but things like canceling the XL pipeline, which was critical to our energy security, and providing cheap and affordable energy to a lot of American consumers was one of the early calls, which I think was a disaster. But as seen from abroad, it's a terribly confusing environment when you have the United States shifting in major ways its view of how it handles foreign policy and even some aspects of domestic policy. There used to be a lot more consistency from administration to administration, even from Republicans to Democrats and vice versa. Today we just don't have that anymore, and it makes it very difficult for us to maintain a consistent and reliable relationship with all of our partners and friends and allies abroad.
Let's dig into that a little more, because you've been an ambassador in China and Russia. You know how it works there. When they see those transitions, and even our adversaries, how do you think this is being viewed from a world perspective?
Well, our allies and our friends want us to be strong. They want us to pay down our debt. They want us to rebalance our economy. They want us to trade. Our enemies love to see us divided, so I've lived both in China and in Russia, and the divided state we find ourselves in today plays right into their playbook. They know that the only way that the United States can be defeated is for us to defeat ourselves, and they're hoping that the current political divide, which is a very extreme situation as far as I can tell, is something that is going to make us basically feckless as a country in terms of any ability to exert our influence and to project our values abroad, which has always been liked by our friends and allies and hated by our adversaries.
I'd like to get your thoughts on the executive order. We've seen several of them in the first month, even in the first few days. What's your thought on every time the White House changes party, we see these sweeping reforms this way? Is it good for the country?
It is what America has become famous for in recent years from a political standpoint. So we've seen dozens of executive orders. President Trump had over 200 executive orders. President Reagan had 300 executive orders. FDR had 3,000 executive orders, as compared to contrasted to John Adams, who had one. So you could argue that executive orders really have become a way for incoming presidents to get their way, circumventing Congress and circumventing an open and transparent process, which is not good for our system longer term, but that's exactly what has happened. And I wish it weren't that way, but that's how people get in and get things done quickly.
Let's get into the Republican Party. How do you define the current state of the party as it sits today?
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being total catastrophe and 10 being perfect harmony, I'd say that we're probably about a 2.
That's not good.
No, it's not good. It's not good for debating ideas. It's not good for coalition building. It's not good for bringing new people in. The only way you win in politics, Glenn, is by building and expanding coalitions. And the way the party sits right now, it's scaring people away. And the more people you scare away, the less likely it is that you're going to win an election. So, listen, we're a two-party country. People talk about alternative and third-party movements. That just doesn't work. Our system is built for two, and we work best when we've got two robust, competing, debating political parties. And right now, that's not the case. And I know we're going to rebuild. That's what we do in America. But right now, we're in kind of a dangerous moment.
I'd like to get your thoughts on the way President Trump went out. What do you think?
Well, he lost the election, and I think how he used the bully pulpit as opposed to the American tradition of a peaceful transfer of power. We're a very unique country in that we have a tradition and a history of a peaceful transfer of power. Most countries can't pull that off, and it's been a singularly unique thing for the United States. This was the first time that we really have not been able to do that, and it does not bode well for how we sit, how the younger generation sees politics in the United States, and how the rest of the world sees us. So I would have much preferred, and there were a lot of things I liked that President Trump did. I would have much preferred to see him use that moment as a unifying moment for the country, bringing people in, transferring power peacefully, and providing the message to our adversaries abroad that we might disagree politically, but when it comes time to our constitutional duties of transferring power, we're going to do it in ways that make America shine.
Let's talk about moving forward. I see the next few years as critical for the Republican Party. What type of leader would you like to see rise to carry the mantle?
Well, the years ahead are absolutely critical. It's a little bit like 1976 in the aftermath of Vietnam and Watergate, where people wrote off the Republican Party, and 4 years later, Ronald Reagan emerged. This is just how parties go. It's how we move here in America. We innovate, we rebuild, and we recreate. I think the Republican Party has to stick to its roots of liberty, of constitutional government, and basically of strong economic growth and watching our spending. We are not watching our spending. Just recently we passed $3.5 trillion, not in debt, but in our deficit payments that come due every year. This is a dangerous place for us to be, and traditionally the Republicans have been the party that has been strong on economic growth and has watched our spending, but this has gotten out of control, and under Republicans as well. And if we get back to these fundamental tenets, I have no doubt that we can be a winning party going forward.
Recent polls continue to show, this would be both from Quinnipiac and from Gallup, that former President Trump still has a lot of support within the Republican Party, potentially even the front runner for 2024. Do you think that's the right move and direction for the party to go in?
Well, listen, he has a voice and he has a following, and he is a factor within the Republican Party, probably the factor. That doesn't mean he's going to be the factor by 2024. Parties grow and expand, new voices are embraced, new ideas are put forward, and in a free market system like we have here in the United States, it's impossible to say, sitting right here where we are today, that 2024 is going to look a certain way. But listen, he'll have a third, maybe more of the party that will be very, very loyal to him. And I get back to what I said earlier. If the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, isn't smart enough to build a broad coalition and accommodate and find connecting values that bring people who follow President Trump, those who might not follow President Trump, but having some unifying themes that bring everyone together under one tent, that's going to be the winning formula. If we're not able to do that, then the Republican Party is not going to be a winning party in 2024.
Governor, you have run for president before. It's very common for someone to rise to the nomination after making several attempts. Is this something that you're considering?
No.
Again?
No?
No?
No. Running for president is more akin to being in the entertainment industry. I'm not in the entertainment industry. I'm a public servant. And if you like entertainment, and unfortunately the media, which I think have performed an enormous disservice to politics in this country, the way that they too are divided between red and blue camps, they are forever in search of the daily soundbite, they're ever in search of the daily drama, and politics can't find itself in a good place if that's the way that we're going to roll during campaign season. It's time that we put forward serious solutions and chart out a strategy that's going to carry us well into the second half of this century. It can be done, but it's not going to be done when we use politics as entertainment.
Any thoughts on specific names that you think could pull off what you say needs to be done here, the big tent approach?
You know, this is what is so exciting about politics. You look at the grassroots level, you look at people on Capitol Hill in Washington, you look at governors, you look at members of the private sector. It's an open free market system. Whoever puts forward the best ideas is able to build the broadest coalition of support, generally is going to do pretty well. And it's going to be an open playing field for the next few years, and therefore it's going to be very, very exciting. And chances are there's going to be a lot of redefining of America ahead, because our biggest internal problem, aside from our divide, the fact that we are not e pluribus unum anymore, is our debt. And the greatest external challenge for us is China. And we have yet to be able to put in proper perspective how we're going to deal with that, which is something we haven't had to face in terms of an international challenger in at least 100 years. So there's much to be done. Bring on the debates, let it begin, and let those who have the best ideas rise.
All right, we will watch and see how it plays out. Governor Huntsman, appreciate your insight today.
Thanks Glenn, always a pleasure.
All right, still to come, millennial Republicans and their expectations and hopes for the party. That's a little bit later in our panel discussion.